What you have to understand about trading before the NFL season starts is nobody is going to trade you their third round pick for your fifth round pick. All trades before the season are completely based on where you drafted a certain player at. And you're going to see exactly what I mean when I go through the first trade target that I'm trying to acquire before 2025 fantasy football starts. Just make sure to go down there, drop a like on the video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support before we get started. And I also want to add this. We did hit 20,000 subscribers. Thank all of you for subscribing. You guys are amazing. And I don't forget loyalty. And I'm giving away 5 free Fantasy Football Roundup hats that have never been unveiled before. These are legendary hats, and I do not even have one. You guys will have one before me. So the 5 winners today are E.W. Deaver, PO8690, Darnold Schwarzenegger, James Markham, and Jonathan Sacida. Congratulations to all of you winning a free FFR hat. You can email me at footballfanalystnetwork@gmail.com with the information I requested in the comments, and I will send you your free hat. And never stop engaging, guys. First of all, I love the dialogue. Second of all, there will be more opportunities, possibly really soon, to get some more of these free Fantasy Football Roundup hats. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's get into our first guy. And again, I'm talking about Josh Jacobs right here in this first spot. And like I said, you're not trying to acquire Josh Jacobs if you have to give up a Bijan Robinson or a Saquon Barkley, right? If you were to do that, that would be really stupid to do just based on where you drafted those guys at. But with Josh Jacobs, this is a player that I've been consistently above consensus on for 2 years straight now. And I really don't understand why people don't see it my way. So first of all, Josh Jacobs' ADP on ESPN is 19.8. You're basically going to have to get him at the back to middle of your second round in ESPN drafts. Whereas on Yahoo, you have to get him towards the front of the second round of your draft at a 16.7 ADP. Now, this Yahoo price is more appropriate to me because, as a lot of you know, this is my 6th ranked player in all of 2025 fantasy football. And every time somebody dogs me for how high Josh Jacobs is ranked in my rankings, simultaneously, nobody can give me a reason why he shouldn't be that high. We're talking about a workhorse running back for Green Bay. Do you know who their backup is? Because I don't. They want it to be Marshawn Lloyd, but he can't stay healthy every time he gets on a football field. We're talking about a running back behind a top 12 offensive line in the NFL. That's a check mark right there. We're talking about a running back on an offense that is efficient and great with a great mind at offensive coordinator / head coach with Matt LaFleur. That's another check mark. And a quarterback who's really good with a lot more weapons than he had last year. Where is the fault in having Josh Jacobs where I have him ranked? Now, let's say you don't have him ranked there, right? Well, you can confidently say that Josh Jacobs is probably the best second round pick because if you look around all those other guys, there's a lot of players like a Jonathan Taylor, for example, who I would say is a lot more uncertain to get than Josh Jacobs on a bad offense with a bad quarterback. All the offense rides on him. Josh Jacobs, the offense doesn't ride on him, which is very good. So the way I would approach this one is, let's say that you drafted at the back of the first round, right? And you went with Ashton Genty and Nico Collins at that 1 to 2 turn. Then you went with either George Kittle or Jackson Smith-Njigba at that 3 to 4 turn, along with Amari and Hampton. So your first 4 picks are pretty good, aside from maybe Ashton Genty, who we will talk about here in a minute. And then you got George Pickens in your 5th round pick. So let's say that the guy who got Josh Jacobs ended up going with CeeDee Lamb in the first and Josh Jacobs in the second. That's a pretty dominant combo there in the first 2 rounds. I would automatically be trying to weaken that guy's team because he's in the same league as me and I don't want him to win, that's for sure. Then he goes ahead and either gets Ladd or Tyreek Hill in the 3rd round and Kenneth Walker or Mike Evans in the 4th round. So what I would do is I would shoot for an Ashton Genty and George Pickens send-off for Josh Jacobs and Mike Evans. Because what you will do is you will get a 2nd round running back in return for a 1st, meaning that you can target a higher end wide receiver in the draft compared to what they drafted at. So you can get Mike Evans in return for George Pickens, which even though a lot of people are in on George, I would be willing to bet that 99% of people would agree that Mike Evans will be the better player in fantasy than George Pickens unless he gets hurt or father time comes for him. but a dominant Mike Evans will finish as a top 10 wide receiver. So with this trade, you could essentially get 2 top 10, top 5 players at their respective positions here. This is just a move I think will be really good up until the point where games are being played and people realize, oh yeah, Josh Jacobs, really good pick in the second round, because he's not going to move up at any point before the season. It's all going to come down to play during the season, which as soon as the season starts, people will realize that Josh Jacobs was a great pick. That's why you got to buy on him before it's too late. Now, the next guy I want to talk about here is actively rising in drafts. TreVeyon Henderson is very much soaring in drafts. I think I checked ESPN before I did this video, and I think he raised up like 18 spots within the last week. I mean, that's a lot of rise for a player that nobody has ever seen yet, man. And I think that everybody is on the same page with this one, which is a good thing, because TreVeyon Henderson will be a very good player. But my thing is this. So TreVeyon's ADP right now on ESPN is 52.3, and his ADP on Yahoo is 67.2. So this is a very interesting scenario right here, because if you look at my overall rankings that I just did this past week, he's actually my 34th ranked player. So we have not hit his ceiling just yet as far as how high I would take him, which would be 34th overall. We're getting closer, but we're not there yet, which means it's still a good time to buy low on a player like TreVeyon Henderson. And again, you want to make sure that you're targeting players at the certain ADP range that makes sense for both parties, because you want the trade partner to feel like that he's getting a win as well. So what I would do here is I would try to send a guy like Alvin Kamara, who we know is a really good running back in fantasy when he's healthy, but also at the same time has aged quite a bit because this offense rides on him and he has been injured. And I would try to pair him with a Davante Adams to send over as well, because what we're going to try to do here is we're going to try to get TreVeyon Henderson and Ladd McConkey. Now, what this would do for us is it would make this team a lot younger, and the upside would be very, very similar, because I would say that TreVeyon Henderson's upside is probably a little bit less than an Alvin Kamara, but his floor, I think, is a lot safer, because I don't believe that he has the injury concern that Alvin Kamara does. And I would say that Ladd McConkey, everybody would agree, has a higher floor and a higher ceiling than Davante Adams, since he's the wide receiver 1 on his team. So again, you're drafting Kamara basically a round earlier than where you would be drafting TreVeyon Henderson, sometimes 2. Now, what you could do in return, again, is you can get Ladd McConkey instead of Davante Adams, who's going a round or 2 higher than him as well. So this is the type of trade you're trying to do before the NFL season. You need to understand that nobody in your league is going to give you their second and third round players for your third and sixth round players. You need to match ADP so you feel like they are getting a good deal as well, even though that won't be true because we're trying to target these guys who are sneaky. Now, our next guy that I want to talk about here, I've been all over him all offseason. Jaylen Waddle is still not matching up with my current rankings, whereas his ADP is just a lot lower. His ADP on ESPN right now is 75.2, and it's 69 on Yahoo right now. Now, he is my 38th overall ranked player, and everybody's been dogging me all offseason about this one, right? People who have been familiar with the channel all offseason, they know my issues with Tyreek Hill. But every time someone new comes in that doesn't know who I am, they ask me, where is Tyreek Hill in my rankings? Well, here's the truth. I don't think Tyreek Hill is going to be good. And you know what the funny thing is? That Jaylen Waddle's moving up because people are recognizing that Tyreek Hill is a disaster this year. What I've been asking everybody is, can you point to one good thing, just one, about Tyreek Hill's offseason? He's been injured all offseason, and it's still a concern. He's still got an oblique injury. Not only that, he's obviously had issues with behavior and relationships on the team. Tua Tagovailoa said, yeah, we're not really big on what he said last year. You can't just come back in and say, my bad, bro. Are we good? Everybody's not really in on Tyreek in Miami. All the while, Jaylen Waddle has quietly had a really good offseason, according to all reports. They want this guy to step up and be more of a leader. So you can't point to one good thing with Tyreek Hill, but you can point to a lot with Jaylen Waddle. Now, again, you have to be able to recognize what your league is going to want to do about this one. You don't want to trade Davante Adams, the 34th ranked player on ESPN in their ADP system, or George Kittle for Jaylen Waddle straight up. That makes no sense because while I have him as my 38th ranked player, that doesn't mean that you should not acknowledge ADP. What you want to do with this one is you want to send over a Sam Laporta or DJ Moore with an Isaiah Pacheco for Jaylen Waddle and TreVeyon Henderson or Kenneth Walker. So that way, what this person feels like they're getting is a massive upgrade at either tight end or wide receiver in exchange for Jaylen Waddle. And then you get the running back upgrade that is undisputable. TreVeyon or Kenneth Walker is a better running back pick than Isaiah Pacheco, and everybody would agree with me on that. So Jaylen Waddle, what you could get here is if he hits like I believe he will, you could get an upgraded wide receiver over DJ Moore, an upgrade at pass catcher over Sam Laporta, with a running back that's undisputably better than the running back that you originally had with Isaiah Pacheco, for example. This one is too perfect for me just based on my overall rankings, and ADP is lining up perfectly for a buy low situation for Jaylen Waddle. Now, the next guy I want to talk about is Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is an interesting guy to trade for. I will say that this is not for everybody. If you are a risk taker and you want to either win your league or willing to get last place or 10th place or whatever the case may be, this is a trade for you. But if you like to be, good enough to get 3rd, 4th, 5th place and not really compete to win that much, then this is not the trade for you. Because Travis Hunter is boom or bust. And I mean that with all sincerity. Now, the good thing about this one is that Travis Hunter's price on ESPN and Yahoo is not outrageous. His ADP on ESPN is 80.3 and it's 74.3 on Yahoo. Now, unlike the rookie that we just talked about with TreVeyon Henderson, he is not rising rapidly in drafts right now. People are split on Travis Hunter this year. This is exactly the type of player, though, that you want to take in this range of the draft. These mid-round picks, they need to have that boom or bust quality to them because you're either going to really win it with this one or you're not going to. But you could still be able to even out the bad floor with other players that you can draft behind Travis Hunter, right? So Travis Hunter, to me, when I'm looking at a trade for him, I want to send over somebody that we know who they are, right? So someone like a DJ Moore, a Breece Hall, a Zay Flowers in the 5th to 6th round, I feel like is a good start when you're trying to get a Travis Hunter. Then you combine him with, say, a Tony Pollard. Again, everybody understands that probably in all likelihood, he's going to be the running back one for this team, especially right out of the gate. So this league mate of yours is going to get certainty at certain positions, maybe like they didn't feel like they had in the first couple rounds. Then you could target Travis Hunter and TreVeyon Henderson or Kenneth Walker with those other 2 picks. So this is, again, for the more risk-tolerant players out there in fantasy football. Because I know I'm not the only one who wants to win. If you ain't first, you're last. That's the bottom line in fantasy football. We know what DJ Moore, Breece Hall, Zay Flowers are. Those guys don't have top 10, top 5 upside. I believe Travis Hunter could be a 10-plus touchdown guy, even on minimal volume. And what I mean by minimum volume is probably 100 targets or so. The guys that you could get in that range, I think, are just not on the same level that Travis Hunter could provide you. I think it's a very worthy buy low pick. And the last guy I want to talk about particularly is Deebo Samuel, who, again, very similar to Jaylen Waddle. I'm way above consensus on. I've been trumpeting Deebo Samuel's name all offseason, and I've been saying this also, which is very important to remember. I have no metrics at all to back up Deebo Samuel. This is purely a gut call for me, and I tell everybody this throughout the regular season. You have to go with your gut. Deebo Samuel's a gut call for me. A veteran player who has already showed a top 2 wide receiver ceiling, top 12 wide receiver ceiling in multiple seasons in fantasy football. On a new team, in seek of a new contract, on a contract year in Washington with probably the best, if not the second best landing spot that was possible for a Deebo Samuel. He needed to go to a guy like Cliff Kingsbury who wants to throw a lot of wide receiver screens and get his guy a lot of end-around touches like Deebo Samuel. The only other fit that probably would have been good would have been Miami, but this fit with Washington with a better quarterback with Jaden Daniels, I think it's fantastic. We saw a little glimpse of it in the preseason game. He looked like old Deebo Samuel on his one touch that he got out of the backfield. So this one for me, again, is boom or bust. But I have a great deal of confidence in Deebo this year. So again, you're looking at this ADP on ESPN, which is 107.3. On Yahoo, it's not much different, 100.3. So what I want to do here is you look at guys like Chris Olave and Chris Godwin, who are going above Deebo Samuel in drafts. Then I want to combine one of those players with Caleb Johnson, a rookie running back who a lot of the fantasy community does really like. I want to go for Deebo Samuel, who I view as an upgrade over those wide receivers, but many people do not. And RJ Harvey, who I view as a clear upgrade over Caleb Johnson, who's being drafted higher than Caleb Johnson. But again, what you're doing here is you're sending over a wide receiver who's going a full round or two above Deebo Samuel, and in return, you're going to get a round or two above running back, above Caleb Johnson. That's the move that you're trying to target here. So with Deebo Samuel, I love him. I think he's a great buy low trade target. Now, I do want to go through two bonus guys just because I love you guys and I think that there is a lot of value potentially with Emeka Egbuka. Emeka Egbuka, I will say, is very rapidly rising as well. This is very similar to TreVeyon Henderson, who is actively rising up boards as we speak. Emeka Egbuka's price, though, is still very, very good. 112.4 ADP on ESPN, 102.2 ADP on Yahoo. I think that Emeka Egbuka can easily be this wide receiver one on Tampa Bay. And I'm not joking when I say that. Mike Evans could easily be taken by Father Time this year or injured. And Chris Godwin is already going to miss the start of the season with an ankle injury. Emeka Egbuka has the most clear path to at least wide receiver 2 production in Tampa Bay, which makes him probably a wide receiver 3 in fantasy football right out of the gate. Well, that's not where you're drafting him at. And then I think Tyler Warren is also a great buy low as well. Now, again, timing is everything with these two players particularly because these two guys are both rising rapidly in drafts. But again, Tyler Warren's ADP still reflects a cost that I think is well worth it. 107.9 ADP on ESPN and 114.4 ADP on Yahoo. Now, he's still being drafted below someone like an Evan Ingram, who I like a lot, but I don't like him more than Tyler Warren at this point. We have seen enough evidence out there that Tyler Warren will be this team's possibly leading target. This guy is out there on every snap with all the starters. Daniel Jones is a better quarterback for pass catchers than Anthony Richardson is. So for me, I think Tyler Warren's price is still very much well worth it. And if you haven't heard, what I have been working on all offseason is about to come to a head. If you go to fsroundup.com right now, what you will see is a hype page of what I have been working on all offseason long. We have been developing technology for years, by the way, to automate the waiver wire process for you. So that means that you won't have to get up disheveled at 3 a.m. anymore to go try to grab a player on the waiver wire. We have automated that whole process for you to be able to make you win your league at a better clip than you used to be able to while sleeping through the night. What you could do is you could hook up your ESPN or Yahoo leagues to fsroundup.com and automate the waiver process to help you win your freaking league, which means helping you win money. And unlike most fantasy creators who are just putting their rankings behind the paywall, you are getting this waiver wire tool and my rankings behind the paywall. So we are offering something that has never been brought to the fantasy space before, which means we're bringing you more value than you could ever imagine. So for right now, just go to fsroundup.com, get hyped because this is a hype page because it's going to be dropping very, very soon. So let me know what player you're trying to buy before 2025. And if you do want to see the top 69 overall players for 2025 fantasy football, click on this video right here.